Hi, mythology students. Steve Kirkhoff here, talking to you from beautiful Carroll Gardens, Brooklyn, New York, US of A. I'm going to tell you a little variation on the Iroquois creation myth that I found in this text, The Mythology of North America, because it's much lighter and I could carry it in my suitcase and it was easy to travel with. Story of the Iroquois creation. Usually it starts with a sexual act in which a woman, maybe the first woman, who's living up in the sky world, has sex with a gentleman, and it's unclear who this person is. Sometimes he's described as an older person, sometimes someone her same age. Sometimes with great delicacy, it's suggested that the man, whether a brother or a father, is a family member. In any event, she's living in the sky world. She becomes the partner to a much older or similarly aged person, and the act of their coming together results in pregnancy. And when that happens, when she conceives, there's a tree up there in the sky world that inverts, falls downward, and it makes a hole between the upper world, the sky world, and the earth world, or what is the sort of the water world beneath this upper world. The woman falls through the hole. She's hurtling downward toward this great, vast, watery place. As she's doing it, going faster and faster, a flock of ducks gathers together to create a cushion and to be just beneath her, to lessen the precipitous fall, to make her inevitable landing easier. It happens. She lands in the water. The other animals take notice of it immediately. Muskrat dives down into the water to find mud and earth, and he's going to bring it back. And tortoise or turtle volunteers to use his back as a place to gather the earth so that she can have some place to live. Muskrat is successful. He dives way down and brings up in his mouth and in his claws lots of dirt, lots of earth, but he dies in the effort. Beaver comes swimming along and is able to take from his mouth and take from his claws enough earth and to start putting it on the back of tortoise. And the more the earth goes onto the back of tortoise, the bigger tortoise's back gets, and it increases in size, and it increases in size until it becomes the size of the earth today. And at that very moment, when the earth is settled onto the back of tortoise who will support this world, the pregnant woman gives birth. And she gives birth to another girl. Her name is. But the tale goes on to recount how the daughter, she matures, and despite her mother trying to discourage her from going to certain places because the west wind could impregnate her, she goes out to the fields where there's corn growing or beans growing, and she's working in the fields, and lo and behold, she's impregnated by the west wind, which is again this very subtly non-judgmental fashion of talking about, women go out and they're vulnerable. They go to do their work. As in the Yellow Woman tale, she first met the Kachina at the side of the stream. He was hiding in the willows. Willows are this symbolic representation for women in Southwestern Pueblo culture. Willows and women are kind of equated. Why? Because they were always going to the streams. That's where willows grow. And their branches break off and they fall into the water, they get carried down, they get stuck somewhere, and they start another willow. So you always find willows along the stream beds, and that's also, they're thick. The way the branches grow, they're thick, and they provide cover for men to hide and jump out, take women. So in this case, the west wind is another sort of very soft, euphemistic way to talk about how girls will go out and things will happen. And we're not going to judge those things that happen. So she goes out, and sometimes the stories say that she's impregnated by the west wind, and sometimes it's by a mysterious stranger who lays an arrow beside her bed. Again, another very soft way of talking about human intercourse. Just put an arrow by her bed. Sometimes it's said that he puts two arrows by her bed. One, they both were meticulously straightened, perfect arrows. One had no end, had no flint, and the other one did have a flint. One was untipped and the other one was tipped. She's impregnated. The daughter later gives birth to twin boys. One is called Sapling, or the good mind. And the other one is called Flint, or the evil mind. And it is said that Flint comes into the world through his mother's armpit. That's how he's born. He comes through her armpit. And in the act of coming through her armpit, she dies. Fallen woman, the woman who fell through the sky and gave birth to this girl, she reappears now in the story, and she becomes the twins' grandmother because their mother has died. So the grandmother becomes the guardian of the twins. And then the twins, they become these miraculous world builders, because this is primordial times. This is the very, very beginning. And things have to be put together the way they should be. So the twins are the world builders. They're these creative energies, these sources that go around fashioning our world. And typically, Sapling, or the good mind, performs acts of creation. And then Flint comes along and tries to undo with the help of grandmother. For some reason, grandmother takes Flint to be her favorite. And that's a kind of interesting thing too, isn't it? It's such a wonderful deal. Like, maybe she thought that Flint got a bad reputation because he was responsible for the death of the mother. You know what I mean? Responsible for? That's not true, but that's how people are. A child comes out of the mother dies in the act, and then sometimes the child is blamed for having killed the mother, but the child, of course, is just an innocent creature coming into this world. But maybe Flint had bad reputation from the very beginning because he's the one who caused the death of the mother, and so the grandmother takes a special liking to him, even though he's kind of malicious. He's definitely mischievous, and yet she has a special soft spot for him, and she enables his sort of disturbing and upsetting activities. Anyway, so Flint is aided by the grandmother. He does whatever he can to undo Sapling's work. It's said that wherever Sapling goes, if he just picks up a handful of dirt and throws it, new creations fly out of what comes out from his hand. Animals created by Sapling were, it was said, impounded in a cave, put into a cave and kept there. Until Sapling was able to release them. Flint started building up an ice bridge. Here's some of the stuff that Flint does do. So he wants to build an ice bridge to this icy place in the north. And he would make this bridge so that the monsters from the north could come down and feed on people. But what Sapling does is sends a bluebird to disturb Flint in his work. And then Flint gets distracted, the ice melts, and the monsters can no longer devour people. So it's this constant back and forth, yin yang duality, good, bad, twin. Grandma, I guess with the help of Flint, they decided to make the sun, and they made it out of the dead daughter's face. And together with Flint, they took the sun, and instead of making it available to people, they hid it as far away as they could in the east. And Sapling, who was assisted by a bunch of animals in this endeavor, came and stole the sun back and put it into the sky where it could make its rounds and help everybody. Sapling made rivers flow two ways. This was a great idea. I love this idea. Sapling had the notion that, look, if we go canoeing and we go up, we have to go upstream, and we're lucky to go downstream. Why can't we have rivers that flow both ways? So when you want to go upstream, you just get into the upstream lane. If you want to go downstream, you get into the downstream lane. Either way, you're golden. Flint says, no, he's around to make life harder for humans, whereas Sapling was trying to create an ideal world. Eventually, Sapling retires from the earth after banishing Flint, and Sapling's spirit walks in the sky. And the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, they grow from his buried corpse. And that is a snippet of the Iroquois creation myth. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful story. The understatement, the delicacy, the sort of nice manners at all times, the refraining from judgment, the humility, the humbleness of origins. You notice that in the last creation story of the Zuni, where there was urination and there was defecation. You don't often find people talking about how humble the origins are. And in the Iroquois story, although things are said with euphemisms, soft words for things like abduction that could be maybe construed as a rape in some way, but maybe there was participation from the woman. We're in that gray zone. We're in that ambivalent area where humans actually live. We're ambivalent creatures. And how much are we in control of our own intentions sometimes? But here's the deal. We always have potential. The beautiful thing about the Iroquois story is that here's this heavenly realm where a tree grows, and then the tree falls into the earth world, what becomes the earth world. First it's the water world, then it becomes the earth world. And there's something really very, very sweet about that. I don't know how to describe that to you, how beautiful it is to think about trees growing like roots into the sky. And then the sort of canopy into the earth, which is the kind of the reverse. The roots are in the sky. What does that actually suggest to us? The roots are in the sky. Like we are rooted in the sky. The sky is like being able to overcome ourselves, maybe transcend ourselves, transcend even our ambivalent, crazy nature in which we can't control our impulses. Maybe our roots, which are in the earth, we are earthy creatures, maybe our roots actually came out of the sky. And that seems to indicate that there's great potential in human beings, right? That we are sourced in something that's more than just feces and urine. There's more to us than just that. But we are definitely feces and urine, but there's more to us. There's our potential. Let me see if I can share my screen with you to show you this wonderful. I want to show you, come here. I want to show you this tree that was painted by Georgia O'Keeffe. I hope you're seeing that. Georgia O'Keeffe's a great American painter who lived in the Southwest for a while. And this is I don't know what species tree this is. Maybe it's an oak tree, but you're looking at the tree from the ground level up to the sky, the canopy being finished up in the sky. And it's just a lovely view of a tree because it's so suggestive of so many things, those curling, tangled branches that are like snakes, or they're like, I don't know, some sort of crustacean from the sea, or I don't know what to call those things in the canopy. That reach of the tree into the sky. That's the sort of the conventional view, right? The conventional way of looking at a tree from the bottom up, the canopy is up to the sky. And it's very much this notion of like, from a tiny seed comes that. The potential of our being just starts off as this little grain, and then it becomes this massive trunk that has dead branches in it and living branches in it. It generates life, it produces more life, it multiplies itself, it's dying at the same time. Parts of it are falling off and sloughing off into the ground. That again neutralize if that's a word, nourishes the earth, stimulates the earth for more productivity. It's constantly regenerating, it's dying, and it's being reborn. You get this notion of the immortality and the ascension of a tree into this upper world. And there's also the notion of how trees connect the different worlds. The sky world in the Iroquois tale is connected to the earth world and the sea world through the tree. The tree is the connector of the three worlds: the canopy, the upper world; the trunk, our world; the roots, the world below, the underworld, the world of potential, the unconscious, of death, of the womb, of the tomb, and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really beautiful. And here is an inverted tree where the roots are up in the air. And in the trunk is this sort of Buddha being, right, who is overcoming desire by inverting the process of desire, which is to make us believe that we need something when we don't. And the tree is symbolic of that effort. In the inverted tree, that if we spiritualize what comes from below, what comes from our bodies, if we spiritualize that, our essence becomes truer, because we are sort of overcoming the things that make us difficult. So trees are, again, I've already talked about trees before, but they're just really wonderful, beautiful things to think about. And also, what's really nice about this story is when the woman falls through the hole, the original woman, grandmother, when she falls through the hole after having had sex, whether it was by a rape or it was by some sort of consensual arrangement, full of ambiguity and fear and whatever it was, it's not mentioned. So that to me means it's full of stuff that's heavy and potent. So it's easier to just say that it was, because that's a fact. It was, it happened. There's no sense in scandalizing it now. This is how we start. That's the myth, right? But that's also life. There's no sense in scandalizing what has happened. We are here now. Let's go forward from here. And that's where we find ourselves as human beings. And so there's this sort of rescue and reparation of the woman. Yes, these horrible things might have happened if they were horrible. These things happen, and the helpers come, because helpers do come. You know, the world is a place that has all kinds of things in it, including helpers. And we have internal helpers in ourselves. The helpers come when we need them, you know, provided that we're just okay with being real about what's happening. Then clarifications come, helpers come. It's like in those fairy tales, is it Cinderella? She's locked up in the castle by her mother, up in the dungeon, the upper storied one. And then the little animals come to help her. Well, what are those little animals? That's her own self coming to help her out of her predicament, because she's made friends with who she is in so many different dimensions, in big and small ways. She's okay with everything that she is and has been. And when she needs help, she will have the sort of the inventiveness of mind to get herself out of scrapes. The little creatures are there to indicate that the help that you have, the help that you need will arise if you have been real about yourself and not been spiteful, not been prideful, not been arrogant, not been denying. Then these things come. And then the earth, finally, you know, the earth is this beautiful, beautiful thing. If you think about how miraculous it is that a little seed falls into the ground, and then with the right conditions, all this amazing growth occurs, you know, where the plant life of our world comes right out of the ground with the help of, you know, air, light, and water, and gives us oxygen, takes the CO2, takes the impurities, gives us these wonderful things. It's all very miraculous and very beautiful. And I just wanted to share that Iroquois tale with you. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will catch up with you one more time, I think, before this week is over.